Part two. But like I was saying, like this man-made system is the center point of the mark of the beast. This is what gives birth to it. Let me tell you a little bit about me. According to society standards, I'm probably the worst person you know. I'm probably the most laziest person you ever want to meet, according to society standards. I mean, ever since I was like, what, 7, 8 years old, I always had this God given ability to be able to go out and, make things happen from nothing. But I always believed in God to make it happen for me ever since I was young. I'll tell you a true story. I'm a little stuffy, but I'll tell you a true story. I always been able to have the ability. When I was young, I used to ask my mom for $1, and every day I would take. Every time I would ask my mom for $1, I would go out and buy a little box of candy, and I would turn around and sell that candy for like $5, right? And this is the way business works because what do most business owners do? They will buy a product, right, for less, and then they'll sell it to the public for more. That's how all business works. A lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, they're scamming you." Well, you're being scammed already because if every time you go shopping at a grocery store, a clothing store, any store, how did they get the products? Nobody didn't just give it to them. And don't think that they're creating it themselves because all their products and stuff is like, come on, everybody has a business, everybody has bills. I mean, come on, money is money, and you got to spend money to make money. That's one of the principles of business, you know. So, I mean, and the reason why I brought that up is because when I used to do that, people were like, oh, you're ripping people off. No, I'm not. How am I ripping people off? All I'm doing is what I see them doing, And what they do is they'll buy a product for cheap and then they'll sell it to you for more so they can make a profit off of it. You can't make a profit off of anything if you don't put no money into it. You see what I'm saying? But anyways, that's what they used to do. I mean, that's what I used to do. I used to take a box of candy from the store, turn around and sell it for $5. Okay, off that $1, so I just turned $1 into $5 off doing that, right? So then I would take that five and go buy five more boxes of candy, and I would turn around and sell those five. And then I would take half out of that little bit of money that I just made, right? And I would buy 10. Sometimes I would take 20, and would take and buy 20 more boxes and sell all of those 20s, and then next thing you know, I would have $100 in my pocket. And I used to do that from the time that I was 7 all the way up until I was like maybe 14, 16. Yes, no, I was about 14 or something when I quit doing it because I started getting a little bit too old for doing stuff like that. I was starting to come of age where I could start working. But I never lost sight of that business mentality, And I always, and every time before I did it, though, it was only always a reason why I wanted to go out there and sell that candy, right? I always wanted something. But if I wanted it though, I'd be like, Lord, by this day I want to have this, right? I would be like, God, make sure. I'd be like, I'll say to God, I'll pray and I'll ask God to make a way so I can get it by this day, right? But even as a kid though, I even had the love of God in me, because I would always see homeless people, and even though I knew I wanted this video game system or whatever that it was that I wanted, I would always see a homeless person, and I would always say, you know what? These people need it much more than I do. And I don't know why, because I wasn't really taught by my parents to be like that. Because I never seen my mom and dad do anything like that or nothing. I mean, to be honest with you, I never really seen people do that at all, you know. But for some reason, I just always had a heart from the for homeless people. You know, I mean, I love to give I like to give the credit to God for that. You know, that He always made me consider Him. Me and my little brother will always do it. Like once my little brother, you know, because a lot of the time when I was younger, my mom and dad always would have me take my little brother with me, pretty much most places I went. You know, so even he would witness doing that, and then he start doing it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, yeah, he does need it more than us. You know, because people would see us because we're young out there and we're selling candy, but there would be a homeless guy out there playing a guitar or something, playing some music, asking for change and stuff like that. And you know, they would come buy the candy for us and stuff like that, and we'd be like, "Nah, go give it to him." You know, and I'm not to boast or brag about that or anything like that, but it's like nobody's not. But you know, as an adult though, it's like I thought it was something that people just did. You know, just like that. You know, I just thought it was in everybody's nature that really care about somebody that's less fortunate than them. You know. But the older I got, I begin to see that it's not in everybody's nature to be that way. In fact, it's extremely rare to see people that way. You know, and this is ridiculous because as I begin to, you know, come of age and begin to understand more and more throughout my whole entire life, I got a chance to see that I don't want to be nothing like adults that I knew. You know, I didn't want to be like my mom. I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't even want to be like my grandma. I didn't want to be like nobody that I knew that was an adult around me. And it was not, and it was mainly because they just didn't, there was always something about them type of people that I just didn't really like. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I love my mom and I love my dad and I love my grandmother, so don't get me wrong. I mean, I love and respect my parents. I do. It's just as I got older, I just began to see that the things that they try to teach us to do, they wasn't doing themselves. You see what I'm saying? They always sent us to church. Ever since I can remember, they always told us to go to church. You know what I'm saying? And they always taught us to, you know, read the Bible and stuff like that. They even taught me that they could be wrong also sometimes too. And I'm glad they did teach me that because I got a chance to see that they were wrong about a lot of things, you know. but you know, but as I got begin to get older and stuff like that, I just was like, I always told myself, man, I don't ever want to work for another man, you know. And if I had to work for somebody, I'd rather work for God. And I really meant that when I said that. And I was probably about maybe 8 or 9 when I said something like that, you know. And I made it up in my head that I was not going to work for no man but God. And to be honest, man, I actually went against that because as I got older, I tried to get jobs and stuff like that. But for some reason, I could never keep a job. I even had a job that I would go, and most of the time, the reason why I couldn't keep a job was because of me. You see what I'm saying? It was because I was either calling in all the time or, you know, because I wasn't showing up on time, you know, and stuff like that. But it came a point where I just got tired of that pattern. You know, yeah, I just really wanted to be responsible and do what I needed to do. But guess what happened? I still ended up losing that job. Like I was working at a place called Clearwire, and when I was working there, I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but yeah, and I was working there. I ended up I was going to work, and while I was going to work or whatever, I had ran into a couple friends of mine who just so happened to have a car, and they offered me a ride to work, and I was like, cool, beats catching the bus because at the time I was on a bus at the bus stop waiting for the bus so I could go to work, and I would leave so I could get there at least 30 minutes to an hour to 30 minutes early, so then that way I'll be there so I won't be late, right? And I really did everything I possibly could to try to keep this job. And guess what? I still lost it. Right before I was actually getting ready to be transferred to another store that was closer to where I lived at the time. And I called myself being honest and, calling in because on my way to work, we ended up getting pulled over by the police or whatever. And what happened was, I guess the people that were giving me a ride home or giving me a ride to work had stole the car, and I didn't know the car was stolen. So I'm all like, because, and I kind of figured that the car could have been stolen because as soon as we got to, I was working in Bellevue. So as soon as we had got to Bellevue or whatnot, they had seen this police crew. There was a police car just at the intersection at where we was at, but they were like, they were going in the opposite direction of us, right? And they were acting so nervous, and I didn't know why, right? And I mean, I kind of figured that, okay, I was like, do any of you guys got a license or whatever? And they was all like, no, they didn't have a license, so I thought it was that. I was like, well, don't trip. I mean, if they do pull you over or whatever, they'll probably just give you a ticket. That's the worst that's going to happen, you driving without a license. But they were acting way too nervous for me to even think that was even the problem. Okay, so I was like, man, is the car stolen? And at first they was like, no, the car's not stolen. The car's not stolen. But I'm all like, but why you guys acting? You guys are acting way too nervous now. You know what I'm saying? You guys are acting nervous to the point where you got me nervous. You know? And I mean, I didn't know what was going on. But anyways, as soon as we get pulled over and stuff like that, then they come out and tell me that the car was stolen. Okay. So I'm all like, man, are you serious? Lord, how could this really happen? Like, I'm on my way to work. I'm always going to work so I could, because I need to be able to provide for my family. You know, I got to be able to do the things that I have to do as a man, right? But I ended up getting pulled over in a stolen vehicle. And I'm all like, my Lord, man, like, how could this really happen? Like, I'm on my way to work. You know what I'm saying? And the police took us all in. So I'm up at the station. I had to talk to this detective. I'm explaining to the detective that look, I didn't know the car was stolen. Okay, and they're vouching for me and stuff. They say, well, he really didn't know. They're even telling them that before they're putting us in the handcuffs, right? And I'm all like, okay. And the police ain't paying. They're not paying them no mind. That they're saying that I hopped up in the car not knowing that they stole the car because there was nothing that indicated that the car was stolen. They had the keys to the car, and I assumed that if they had the keys, it's yours. Well, I guess I learned a hard lesson, right? But at the same time, though, that just helped me realize something, though. It's like whenever I tried to do something that I thought was right, the Lord shows me something else. You see what I'm saying? Because at first it was just me, right? That I thought, at first it was me. This is why my inconsistencies, right? With me not going to work and stuff at time, on time and stuff like that, which is why I was never able to really keep my jobs. And now that I'm actually trying to keep it and, you know, making sure I am there on time and quit being so lazy, right? I still, another scenario will pop up where I would end up losing it. So, Lord, what's going on here? Like, how come every time I try to find a job or every time I try to keep a job, it never works out for me? Why is that? And I've been pondering this for quite some time now. And I'll tell you guys the answer to that in part 3.